Thank you, Steve. Steve just let me know that all of the talking that I've been doing hasn't been coming through on the microphone, so let me start all over again. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is on the tools and reports in BNI Connect. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be digging just a little bit deeper into the system to go beyond the home screen and into some of the different functions that you can use, as well as the different types of information you can get back out of the system. Some great statistical reports and some things that might enlighten you as to how you're doing in BNI, how your chapter is doing, and help you to strategize going into the future. A couple of housekeeping things before we get started. This is a live webinar, so that means that as I'm going through and showing you things in BNI Connect, if you have any questions about what you see on the screen, please do feel free to ask those questions as we're going through the material. I'll see those questions pop up on my screen, and I'd be happy to answer them as we're going along. If it's a question outside of what we're going through, I'd be happy to answer those at the end of the webinar. We're scheduled for about 30 minutes of content. I know everybody's very busy, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here. So I do try to end right at the bottom of the hour. That being said, if there are questions or if you'd like more information, I am always happy to stay on these webinars as long as you would like to. And it's all being recorded. You'll be able to watch the recordings. You can find them in a couple of different places. The easiest place to find them is on the support site. To get to the support site, you'll see a question mark here in the upper right-hand corner, right under the options button. If you click on that question mark, that will take you over to support.bniconnect.com. I have been putting the links to the recordings right after them in the list for the past couple of days, but we'll also be in the chapter training and documentation section, and there is a section for recorded webinars. So if you go in there, you can see that we have them broken out month by month. You can check out a particular month, say March 2014, and see all of the webinars, review the material. You can share them with other members of your chapter or use them for your own training purposes. You'll also be able to find them on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. This has a ton of recorded material. So it has some special messages from Dr. Meisner. It's got, of course, all of the webinars that have been recorded. It also has some educational moments, shorter 3 to 5 minute videos on just particular topics that you can actually use as educational moments in your chapter meetings if you'd like to. So please do check out our YouTube channel as well. All right, so let's get into the content today. And again, we're going to be talking about the member tools and reports. Now, a couple of things. I am on the home screen right now, and just want to explain a few things about this screen. On here, we do have your personal participation report. And what this is, the My BNI Business, this is your statistics, your personal statistics for the past 12 months, as well as your lifetime in BNI. And these numbers are taken directly from the PALMS report. So as you're participating in your weekly chapter meeting and you're submitting referrals, you're submitting one-to-one forms, you're submitting thank you for closed business, regardless of whether you're submitting them through the online slips or whether you're submitting paper slips, these numbers should increment on a weekly basis. Now, keep in mind, they will only change after your weekly BNI meeting. So after your vice president has submitted the data for that week, they will show up in the this report here, because this is really just, again, pulling from the PALMS report for your chapter. Now, if you'd like to go a little bit more in detail as to your participation in the chapter, excuse me, there is a new report called the Personal Participation Report. And there's a link to it right here next to My BNI Business. Now, if I click on this report, what it's going to do is show me my week-by-week activity for the last year. So if you've ever questioned, you think you should have more referrals than are showing up, or you're really not sure when those absences happened, this would be a good report to pull up to check to see what your participation is on a weekly basis. It's great for being able to also pick up any errors that might have happened. You think you might have submitted a referral one week, but it's not being recorded. This is the weekly POMS report, what your particular statistics were every single week, so week by week by week by week. It gives you a summary at the bottom for the last year of your present, absent, late, medical, and substitute, and the total number of meetings. So you'll notice it's 51 meetings because we had a holiday week during that time. It also will show you the number of members you've sponsored in the last year and the various training that you may have attended over that past year as well. So take a minute to click on that report and see what it looks like for you. Now we have a question from Arthur. Arthur says, how do you get input on business received? And what Arthur's referring to is this first number here is revenue received to my business. Now that is a new statistic in BNI and in BNI Connect. So traditionally, before BNI Connect existed and before the online slips existed, what we've always tracked in BNI is the revenue that you have generated for other businesses. So not business that you've received, but business that you've generated. So for example, let's say that Arthur, you and I are in the same chapter, and you pass me a referral. That's a referral given for you and a referral received for me. Now, if I'm able to close that client, it turns into revenue for my business. What I do is I submit a thank you for closed business slip, and you would receive that number in the POMS report as credit for revenue generated for somebody else. So I thanked you for that closed business. Now, up until the point that BNI Connect came about, we've never tracked the other side of that transaction. So if you remember the thank you for closed business slips, they're anonymous. Since BNI Connect was created and we started using the online slips, when we submit a thank you for closed business slip online, we now know that you received that money. So we're able to keep a running tally of all the thank you for closed business slips that you submit, but only if you use the submit thank you for closed business slips online. If they're just turned in on paper, then they'll still be anonymous and this number will remain at 0. However, if you do submit the thank you for closed business slips online, then that number will begin to increment. So does that help, Arthur? Does that answer your question? Excellent. So, and I know it might be, I'm a 12-year member. I've been in BNI for 12 years. I joined in 2002. So even when I started out with BNI Connect, my number was 0, and I've had to slowly increment that, even though I had about 10 years worth of history before that that I wasn't able to input because, again, it was done on paper and not online. Excellent. So what I'd like to do now is to go a little bit deeper than just this home screen. And let's take a look at a couple of other things in the system that you may not know is there. So you'll notice at the top there's a number of different menus up here along the top of the screen. Now, a lot of people say, well, I don't know where to find things. I'm not really sure what all those menu items mean. The way that I think about it, home will always bring you back to these menus here. The network menu is all of the different social media functions. So if you're looking to work with your groups, with the social media groups, the discussion groups, or you want to work with your connections, which is kind of like your personal BNI address book, or testimonials, or the picture gallery, that's all under the network tab. Now, operations, I always look at operations as that's where you do stuff. That's where you're going to do some input, where there are different tools that you might use in the system. Whereas reports is where you're going to get the information back out of BNI Connect. So we're going to start in the operations menu because there's a couple of tools that I'd like to show you under operations chapter. So within here, there's a number of cool things. Now the first thing I'd like to show you is that if you've ever needed to get in touch with your whole chapter, let's say that you're the announcement coordinator, the event coordinator, you're the president of your chapter, and you need to get an email out to the whole group. that used to be kind of a pain in the neck because tell me if you did it any different in your chapter, but it used to be that I would go to the last group email that was sent around and just did a reply all. Well, the problem with that is that it may not include all of the correct people. It probably doesn't have any of the new members that had joined since that email had been sent out, and it probably still includes some of the members that may have dropped from the chapter since that email. So there is a tool in here. If you click on Create Email and click on Email My Chapter, what this does is it gives you a list of all of the email addresses for all of the current members of your chapter. So you can very quickly highlight them, copy them, and then put them into your own email program. So whether you're using Gmail or whether you're using Outlook, I recommend putting them in the BCC field, but you can very quickly and easily send a message to your whole chapter. The other tool here under the Create Email function that I think is pretty phenomenal is the Email Visitor Invitation. So if you've ever struggled to invite somebody to your chapter, this makes it really easy and painless to do so. I mean, I know a lot of times we go to a networking event and we talk to somebody at the networking event and say, hey, why don't you come and visit my BNI chapter? And then your BNI meeting comes around that week and nobody comes to the meeting. Well, a lot of times they need a little bit more confirmation, or you get back to your office and say, oh my goodness, now I have to look up the address of the chapter and I don't really know what to say in this email. Is the email too short? Is the email too long? This takes all of that frustration out of sending an invitation to somebody. So all we need to do is click on Email Visitor Invitation. Again, Operations Chapter, Create Email, and then Email Visitor Invitation. So what we're going to do is we're just going to fill out this little bit of information, and it will take this information and put it into a customized email and send it out to that person to invite them to your chapter meeting. So let's say that I'm inviting John Smith from Smith Co. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my own email address here so you guys can see what this email looks like. Now, the personal message is going to be the first paragraph of this email. So what I can do is type in, some type of a greeting. It was great to meet you at the networking event. I would love to introduce you to my BNI network. I click send, and again, it's going to title it to the person's name. It's going to send it to this email address, and it's going to include this as the first paragraph. When I click send, that does go out immediately, and I just received it in my email, and here it is. So you can see it does come from me. If they hit reply, it will go back to my email address. You can see that it has a great graphic in here. And if anybody remembers the postcards that we've sent out in BNI in the past, this is the graphic from those postcards. You can see it inserted a Dear John, and then it put my opening paragraph in. It was great to meet you at the networking event. I would love to introduce you to my BNI network. It then puts in additional information. It lets them know they're invited to the name of your chapter. I'm a member of the BNI Wakefield chapter. It lets them know where you meet. We meet at the Elks Club, where it's located at 60 Belmont Avenue in Wakefield, and when and what time you meet. Thursday at 7 a.m. It then goes on to describe BNI very, very briefly, so just the right amount of information to let them know what BNI is all about. It repeats the name of your chapter, and it lets them know to please RSVP with you if they're going to be coming to the meeting. It signs it from you and the name of your company. And again, if they do hit reply to this, it will go to your email. Now, if you'd like to try this out to see what it looks like, just go ahead and send an email invitation and send it to yourself. Now, these email addresses, they're not stored or anything like that. It's really just a way to get out a nice branded, well-written email to somebody that you're looking to invite to your chapter meeting. Now, once you've invited people to a chapter meeting, it is great to register them for the upcoming meeting. This gives one additional level of accountability and lets them know that you're expecting them for the upcoming meeting. The great thing about this is that it also produces some additional emails. So when you register somebody for an upcoming meeting, it will send them an email confirmation saying, "That's great, you're now registered for your chapter meeting." It also lets the leadership team know that somebody is registered for the meeting, as well as the director, consultant, and the visitor hosts for your chapter. And it also sends the person a reminder 2 days before the meeting that they are registered. So the first part is to send them an invitation, and then if they accept the invitation, you can also register for the meeting. Now that one's located under Operations Chapter. If you go to Manage Visitor, and click on Register a Prospective Visitor. This allows you to register somebody for an upcoming meeting. Now you can choose the profession, the specialty, and it's really just filling out a form. What date would they like to visit? You can choose any future meeting date, their first name and their last name, and any additional information that you have. You do have to include their email address because it does send out emails with this. Once you click Submit, they'll be registered to attend that upcoming meeting, and they will get the reminder as well. Now, there's a number of other tools in here, but what I'd really like to do is show you some of the reports that are in the system so you can get some more information out of BNI Connect. Now, to get to the reports, we're going to go to Reports, Chapter. So there is a whole list of reports here that you have access to that you can look through. A lot of them are self-explanatory, but I wanted to show you just a couple of my absolute favorite reports in here that have some additional information on them. So the first one is the Chapter Roster Report. Now it seems like a pretty simple, straightforward report, but by going into the roster report, it does show you some additional information. Now the first thing you'll want to do is to note that your leadership team will all be listed at the top. So if you're looking to call your president or call your membership coordinator, call your membership committee about any information or things that you might want to talk about, you can get their phone numbers here, as well as your director consultant. Your director consultant is a wealth of information for your chapter, so giving them a call is a good idea as well. It also will tell you at quick glance how many members are in your chapter, and it will list all the members with a brief POMS report for the last 90 days. So referrals given, referrals received, visitors, one-to-ones, lates, and absences. The next report that I'd like to show you is the Meeting Notes Report. The Meeting Notes Report is a great report because it can actually help you increase the number of referrals that you're able to give following your chapter meetings. If I go to Meeting Notes Report and I click Go, what this report is designed to do is to allow you to take notes during a chapter meeting. Now you could print this out, and what it does is it puts the member's name and their business name and gives you a line to be able to take down a couple of notes about what they talked about during their weekly presentation. However, what you may not like is the amount of room that is there for you to be able to write down. If you'd like a little bit more space, or if you'd like to, let's say, take notes electronically on an iPad or on your laptop, my recommendation would be to use these export functions. Nearly all of the reports in BNI Connect can either be printed or they can be exported. Now, export without headers means that it's not going to include all of this information up at the top in the report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Export without headers. The report is now downloaded in an Excel format. I'm going to choose to enable editing. And now what I can do is make this report a little bit more user-friendly if I'd like some more room to take notes, or again, if I'd like to just keep it in Excel in order to take notes electronically. So maybe I want to expand these columns out a little bit. I'm going to take this notes column and bump it all the way out, and maybe I also want to make it a little bit bigger. So now what I can do is I have a little bit more room for taking notes during the chapter meeting. And that way, after the meeting, I can go back and recall what people were asking for during their weekly presentations. Now, the Summary POMS report, which is the next one on the list, is really the bread and butter of the statistical reports for BNI. So by default, it's going to show us the last 6 months worth of information, but I can change this to any date range I'd like. Let's say I'd like to look up the last year since April 2013. I can change this date to any date range I would like to. I can choose whether or not I want to see the statistics for dropped members or only just the members that are currently active in the chapter, and I can click Go. And this will show me the POMS report for the whole chapter. Now, what all of these mean: P is for present, A is for absent, L is for late, M is for medical leave, S is for substitutes, RGI and RGO are referrals given inside and outside. Now, an inside referral is a Tier 1 referral. It means that a member referred themselves to another member. So in other words, the referral stayed inside the chapter. An outside referral is a Tier 2 or higher referral. It means that a member referred somebody else in their network to the other chapter member. It could have been a cousin, a family member, a client, a colleague, whatever it might be. They referred somebody else to the other member within the chapter. And it's the same for referrals received inside and referrals received outside. Visitor is the number of visitors that person has invited that attended the meeting. One-to-ones, thank you for closed business, and CEUs are chapter education units. Of course, you can export and print this one if you'd like to do some fancy sorting or anything like that. All right, the next report I want to show you is the Classifications Not in Chapter report. Now, this one is exactly as it sounds. What this is going to show you is the list of classifications for BNI that are not represented in your chapter. So if I click Go, what it's doing is it's comparing my chapter roster and the categories that are in my chapter versus the 450 or so categories that are available in BNI. It's also going to do one more powerful thing, and it's going to go through and compare the categories that are missing in my chapter versus all of the other chapters in my area, and let me know how many of those categories are filled in other chapters. So, for example, in my chapter, we don't have a plumber, and that's true. We don't have a plumber right now. However, what it's telling me is that there are 7 other chapters in my area that have a plumber. Now, that tells me a couple of really important things. It tells me that, A, it's a pretty popular category. I should have pretty good luck filling that category in my chapter if I wanted to invite a plumber to my chapter. I can point to the fact that there are 7 other chapters around that have successful plumbers, maybe even refer them to ask them how BNI is doing for them as plumbers in a chapter. It also tells me that we won't be competing with the other chapters to fill this seat. So there's a better chance that they won't come visit our chapter, maybe go visit another chapter, then go visit another chapter, they will have a more likely chance of becoming a part of our group. Now, you may notice that there are some categories that might appear to be filled in your chapter but are still showing up in the list. For example, mortgages. We do have a mortgage broker in our chapter. However, there's so many different categories of mortgages, the exact category may not be a match. So you do have to take a look at that. The other great thing about this report is that if you start scrolling down a little bit, you'll notice that the list is really, 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 really long. There are probably quite a few things in here that you might have never thought of before for inviting to your chapter. You know, maybe you want to invite a hypnotherapist or a piano teacher or somebody that's in air purification or concrete pouring. This is a great tool for coming up with new ideas for who to invite to your chapter. The next report that I'd like to show you is the Member Details Report. Now, if you think back to your Member Success Program, the Member Success Program taught us a bunch of great things, but one thing that it taught us was how to do a better one-to-one. And one of the things that we should be doing to do a better one-to-one is to do a gains exchange before we have that one-to-one meeting. In other words, we take our gains profile, goals, accomplishments, interests, networks, and skills, and we exchange our gains profile with the other person that we're doing a one-to-one with. This helps us to start that one-to-one off on the right foot, learn more information about the person, and be able to go deeper right away with that one-to-one. Well, you can do that gains exchange in BNI Connect by looking up the other person's profile, or if you'd like to print it out, you can go to the Member Details Report. So what I can do is go to Member Details Report. I can click on, I want to view this other member's gains. So let's say that I'd like to be able to print this out so I can give it to the other person. I can choose myself from the list, click Go, and I can print out my gains profile in order to give it to the other person. Maybe I want to print it to a PDF so that I can email it to them. I can also go and view another person's bio. I can view their TOPS profile, or I can view their commercials. And again, this is a great tool to be able to get that information or to be able to print that information for yourself to give to somebody else. So the final thing I want to show you, let's go back to the home screen for a second. Now, once you've started using some of these tools, undoubtedly you will have a favorite tool, a favorite report that you are going to get to use on a regular basis. Roy just put in a comment. He says, I really like the export meeting notes feature. So I'm glad that you like that, Roy. Now, if you'd like to make these a little bit easier to find so that you don't have to go digging through the menus, you can use the shortcut menus here on your home screen. You'll notice that you'll have a chapter shortcut menu here. And what this is it's a customizable menu where you can put all of your favorite reports just one click away. So the way to do that, you can see I put some of my favorites here, but let's say that there's something here that I'd like to add. If I click the Configure button, what this does is it brings up a list of, on the left-hand side, the things that are in my shortcut menu, and on the right-hand side, all of the options and reports that I have accessible to me based on the permissions in my region. So let's say that I'd like to add that Register a Prospective Visitor to my shortcut menu. What I can do is click on Register a Prospective Visitor, and now it's in my list over here. And let's say that I find that I'm really not using the chapter traffic lights very often. I'm going to take that out of my shortcut list by clicking the red X. I can also rearrange these. So let's say I'd like to move this Register a Prospective Visitor up to the top of the list, up under Email My Chapter. I can then submit this. My changes have been saved, and I'm going to close. I have already saved it, so I'm going to click OK. And now you'll see that my shortcut list here has changed. I have one-click access to now Register a Prospective Visitor, and I can perform that function right away. I also have one-click access to emailing my chapter. So once you find your favorites, take a look at this chapter shortcut menu, and you'll be able to make life a little easier for yourselves. So we are at the bottom of the hour. What I'd like to do is open this up for any questions. For those of you that do need to leave right away at the bottom of the hour, I would very much like to thank you for being here on the webinar with me today. If you do have any additional questions, please feel free to email or check out the support site and submit a ticket. Our email address is supports@bniconnect.com, and of course you can always submit a ticket on the support site. If you're curious as to what something does in BNI Connect, just click the little question mark next to the specific function. So if you're curious about how to submit a referral slip, click the little question mark next to it. You can watch a video about it, or you can go through the step-by-step instructions. Reminder that this is being recorded. It will be made available at youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. It will be made available there probably within a couple of days. And finally, I would love it if you could give us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. We do webinar announcements and tips and tricks and reminders and all sorts of things up here on Facebook as well. All right, does anybody have any questions? I would love to answer those questions. All right, if there's no additional questions, I'd like to say that a good referral for me is if you found something useful in today's webinar, if you thought this was a good format, please do refer these webinars to the other members of your chapter, other members in your region. I would love to see more people on these webinars taking advantage of this. Our very next webinar is going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about connections, groups, testimonials, and more about increasing your network by using the power of BNI Connect to be able to search worldwide to connect with other people and to be able to have those conversations through the groups functionality. So again, that is tomorrow at noon Pacific, an hour later than we started today. 3 p.m. Eastern. Please send this link to some people that you think could benefit from that webinar. That would be a great referral for me. Excellent, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Oh, before I hang up, Jenny had a question. She said, do you find you have to email the gains report to other members, or will they do it? So what I find is in BNI Connect, so before BNI Connect, we were actually taught that we had to fax the gains profile. I don't even think I own a fax machine anymore. So you can email that over. But what I find myself doing more often now is if I'm going to be having a one-to-one with somebody, and especially if it's somebody from my chapter, what I'll do is I'll just look up their profile in BNI Connect. So I'll either go to my connections, because I'm automatically connected to all the people in my chapter. So I go to Network Connections, and if I am, let's say, doing a one-to-one with Alfred E. Newman here, I could then get his information and I could view his profile. And if I view his profile, I can look at his bio and read his gains profile. Now, unfortunately, Mr. Newman here has not completed his profile in BNI Connect. He has not completed his gains profile. He has not completed his tops profile or his 60 seconds. So what I would have to do in this case is to ask him to send me one. But once people start making sure that they're all filled out in BNI Connect, for example, if I look at my own profile, if we were to do a one-to-one and you went to my bio tab, you'd be able to read my 60 seconds, you'd be able to read my gains profile and my tops profile all in one place. So does that answer your question, Jenny? And you're welcome. So any additional questions? Again, here in support, we answer questions all day long, so it's our favorite thing to do, so I'm always happy to stay on as long as people have questions. All right, if that was the last question, again, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Have a great day, everyone, and happy connecting.